So, welcome everyone to the fifth webinar of the series of webinars about circular economy in the Balkan region. This is part of the project Circular Economy Beacons, or Circular Economy Balkan Beacons as a full name of the project, that is supported by EIT Climate Kick, and that is being worked in a consortium of 7 partners over the last 2 years and in the next couple of years. The goal of the Circular Economy Beacons is to facilitate the establishment or creation of the ecosystem of business circular economy. But together with that, we see the need that we need to aid and we need to be influencing policymakers and also create a good fertile ground for the consumption, also consumption models to change in order to facilitate good circular economy development. Last year, we were focusing on business development. This year, we are focusing more on the urban development in regards to circular economy. And next year, we will be aiming to facilitate transition of innovation that is established in the Balkan region, to see what are the needs and what are the opportunities to shift it towards circular innovation. This webinar is basically aiming to recapitulate everything that we have done in 2021, in year 2021, but not only for the project, but also for the recent developments of other initiatives that were happening all around the Balkan region. And therefore, in the next hour and a half, I will be joined by experts in this field from Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I will be happy to also to share some of my thoughts or some of my conclusions in 2021. So, without further ado, I would be happy to welcome Professor Phoebe Konduri, one of our partners from the from the Research Center Athena, but also from Athens University of Economics and Business, and she will let us know a little bit more about the economics of the circular economy in Greece, and actually in the recent development of the economics of circular economy, and what is actually the economical potential for accelerating the green and digital transition in Europe. And here I would like only to emphasize that green and digital have to come in pairs, because both of them actually support each other, each of terms, to foster a faster development and faster innovation in the green domain. Phoebe, thank you very much for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for having me. Let me try to start my video if you want to see me. And although it does not allow me to start the video, so you have to give me access, but I can share my screen, which is, I think, more important than having the ability to see me.
I will definitely make it possible in a couple of seconds.
Okay, so let me start though and say that we are at a point in time that we are facing multiple crises, not just the pandemic and the huge recession that derives from it, but also climate change and biodiversity collapse. My team works as an international cluster for research on sustainability transition, and basically 3 research and institutions are working together: the Research Laboratory on Socioeconomic and Environmental Sustainability at the Athens University of Economics and Business, the Athena Research and Innovation Center, which is the biggest research center in the country that focuses on information technology. These 2 research centers bring together the green and digital transition, the twin pathways that we have to figure out in order to implement the European Green Deal, in order to implement the Sustainable Development Agenda, and in order to recover in a sustainable way from COVID-19. Together with these two research institutions that I lead, EIT Climate Hub Greece works on the deployment of innovations that are produced in the research centers and the research commercialization of these innovations. We all know that the sustainability transition, the huge transformation that we need to implement in order to avoid the devastating effects of the climate change crisis, the biodiversity crisis, is a transition that is mainly driven by technological advancements. So EIT Climate Kick is trying to incubate and finance and accelerate to the market climate neutral technologies. Together with these three entities, we work very closely with UNSDSN. This is a Sustainable Development Solutions Network under the auspices of the General Secretary of the UN, led by Jeff Sachs at the University of Columbia, the biggest sustainability framework in the world. I am honored to co-chair the European Hub with more than 400 institutional members, and the Greek Hub with all the universities and research centers of the country as members. The last 20 years, we have attracted as a team 500 million in competitive research funding on different research and innovation projects, but also innovation acceleration and deep demonstration, and of course education, training, upskilling, reskilling programs, and creating a science policy interface. And we all know that the transition needs to be science-driven, and it is technologically driven, but it also needs policies. It needs policies in order to achieve implementation. So a very quick snapshot of the policies that are relevant since 2015. 2015 was not the first time we had sustainability on the policy agenda. Sustainability exists since the 70s. However, these are the, I would say, the policies that are now relevant, and countries have committed to implementing them. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the 169 targets within them, with circular economy being connected with most of these targets. The Paris Agreement, the commitment to limit global average temperature to an increase, to a maximum increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to the temperature during pre-industrial era. Any increase in average global temperature beyond that will be devastating for our infrastructure. It will mean a great loss in human life and economic activity. 2019, Climate Week in New York, September, SDSN announces the transformations that are needed in order to implement the SDGs. Transformation in education, health, energy, decarbonization and industry, sustainable food, land, water and ocean, sustainable cities and communities, and the digital revolution for sustainable development. What is interesting here is that each SDG is fully implemented only if all the other SDGs are implemented, and these transformations are relevant for the implementation because they mirror the way governments are structured into ministries. And of course, after this, we have at the end of the year the announcement of the European Green Deal with climate neutrality as a main goal, protection of human life by cutting pollution, clean tech leadership for European companies, and of course, leaving no one behind, an inclusive transition. It is supported by a 1 trillion budget, some of it from EU budget, some to be leveraged by public-private partnerships. And of course, 2020, we have the pandemic, we have Next Generation EU, 750 billion in addition to the multi-annual financial framework to accelerate the green and digital transition. And all investments that will be funded by the Recovery and Resilience Plan, which makes most of the Next Generation EU budget, have to be 37% climate mainstream and 20% digital mainstream. 2021, we have the climate law, the first time that the commitment to reducing CO2 and other greenhouse gas emissions by 55% until 2030 and becoming neutral by 2050 is put into law and currently being transposed into national laws. So we have the European law and now being transposed into national law. Greece has put into consultation our Greek climate law. I was part of the committee who put that together, and we hope it's a good law that will be implemented. We have the sustainable financing thematic, which basically is summarized in the EU taxonomy, identifying which investments can be considered sustainable and financed as such, climate change, adaptation, mitigation, sustainable use and protection of water and marine resources, circular economy, pollution prevention, and biodiversity. As you see, circular economy is very central in all the regulations that have to do with the transition. It's central to the SDGs, is central to the European Green Deal, is central to the EU taxonomy, and as such, it is central to the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, the new proposal of the EU that identifies the detailed reporting requirements that companies need to submit in their sustainability reports, which will also be digitally tagged. And we know that in order to achieve reduction in CO2 emissions and other greenhouse gas emissions, together with the reduction on their footprint on natural resources, water, soil, and so on, companies need to engage in circular economy, and they need to showcase how their activities, their transition from linear to circular transposes into what they report in the Sustainability Reporting Directive. And as such, they are good submission advantage when they go to get finance from a financial institution. So the transition to circular economy is something that is relevant for all the SMEs and of course big companies, public and private, and that is why it's something that it can really accelerate the sustainability transition, because it's something that is relevant for almost every corporate unit, even very small. And it could be something on which you can show your sustainability potential and get finance for that. Of course, we have the Fit for 55 regulation, 13 different proposals, legislative proposals from the European Commission that are basically refining all the climate regulations in the Commission, the ETS, creating a new social facility for the vulnerable households, the revision of the effort sharing regulation, the land use system, the proposal for carbon border adjustment mechanism, revision of renewable energy directive, energy efficiency directive, energy taxation directive, forest strategy, and anything that has to do with mobility, fuels, cars, vans, aviation, maritime. All this, in order to be implemented, a big part of this will be the transition of circular economy. The transition will be mobilized via the optimal use of renewable, circular economy, nature-based solutions, climate adaptation projects, and digitalization. So these are the 5 mobilizers for the transition, and this is why we need to focus on each one of them and find the optimal mixture of these 5 mobilizers in terms of technological investments and upskilling and reskilling for each and every country, and create the pathways from today until 2030, 2040, and 2050 in order to sketch out in a very explicit way how we are going to make this transition. It might be worth saying that this is happening around the world. We have an unprecedented momentum for climate neutrality pledges by 2050, 2060, China, 2070, India. Too late, but at least they are on the map now. However, it is important to know that the policy transposition of these claims, of these pledges, is only happening mainly in Europe. And unless you have policy transposition and a revision of the financial system to support the financing of these pledges, then you cannot really hope for fast implementation, if implementation at all. Now, going back to where we are, if all the, and these are the results after the recent COP in November, I was there, I came back excited because I saw the business and financial sector really integrated into the COP procedures and really interested. I've been participating as observer and representative of different delegations in COPs for 20 years. This year, I was there as the president of the European Association of Environmental and Resource Economics and chair of SDSN Europe in 2 different presentations. But this year was the year that I came back optimistic because I saw the mobilization driven by the fact that the technologies for climate neutrality are now being made available at competitive cost prices. So they are becoming cheaper than fossil fuel. That's why the financial institutions, the businesses are interested. And even though politicians are conservative for reasons that we all understand, and we can talk about them later on, I see the business and the financial sector really wanting to build climate at the heart of their finance and their procedures. So the real world action based on current policies will get us to plus 2.7 degrees. If we add, however, all the announced targets, including net zero targets, long-term targets, and nationally determined contribution, we can go to plus 1.8. which is much closer than 1.5. But this, of course, needs a lot of transposition into implementation. As SDSN Europe, every year we produce this report on the level of achievement of the SDGs, each SDG and each target in all European countries. And we've recently, yesterday, we announced the European Sustainable Report for 2021, and there we have many Balkan countries, and I think it would be interesting for you to have a look, although I don't have the time to go through this now. And the second report that we produce is the transformations for the joint implementation of Agenda 2030 and the European Green Deal for a green and digital job-based and inclusive recovery from COVID-19. And there we explicitly say in this report that, as I said before, the technological and investment pathways need to be composed by a mixture, the optimal mixture of renewable energy sources, circular economy, types of nature-based solutions, climate change adaptation projects, and digitalization. So as you see, circular economy is crucial. And of course, we all know that it is based on principles of designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and materials in use, and regenerating natural systems. And we expect 56% cut in EU emissions from heavy industry by 2050 through the implementation of circular economy, and 45% cut of global emissions from steel, cement, plastic, and aluminum products. And circular economy, of course, produces economic benefits, microeconomic positive impacts from shifting to a new production model. And it creates opportunities for companies, and these have been investigated and identified in the BICOS Balkans Circular Economy Project. It creates opportunities for individuals to have increase disposable income, to improve living conditions, and of course enjoy the associated health impacts. And of course we have environmental and systemic benefits to the ecosystem, which again provide the ecosystem services on which our society and economy relies. Circular economy is figured as being a win-win situation. It is estimated to produce savings of 600 billion euro for EU businesses, 8% of their annual turnover, expected to create more than 500,000 jobs in innovative design and business model, research, recycling, remanufacturing, and product development. It is relevant for SMEs, not just for big companies, and we know that SMEs are the backbone of the European policy. It will produce reduction in EU carbon emissions to the extent of 450 million tons by 2030, and it definitely, as we said before, reduces the environmental footprint. Less products are discarded, less materials are extracted. We have optimized waste management via boosting recycling and reducing landfill. So we see that the circular economy will create both public benefits in terms of environmental and health benefits, and it will create social benefits in terms of increased jobs, but it will also create private benefits in terms of increased profitability for companies, small companies and large ones, and it will increase their profit through reduction in their cost. And the cost reduction now will become more evident because now the cost of the externalities that the companies have been imposing on the environment are to be paid by the companies through the new climate regulation that I've shown you before. So now there is a much bigger incentive for a company to understand what circular economy is, to understand what kind of technologies it needs in order to transition to circularity, because now it will create even bigger benefits, not just the benefits of a reduced cost of reduced material, but also reduce tax cost due to environmental regulation. So our approach to identify the total economic value of the transition composes of integrating two different methodologies long existing in the literature, and we think that it's important that they are integrated in order to make the case for in order to incentivize and make clear and explicit the benefits from circular transition. The first one is identifying the footprint of each and every production process within a company via life cycle impact assessment. So identifying the footprint of each and every material and each and every process you are using in your production activity. The footprint on climate change, ozone depletion, photochemical, ozone creation, human toxicity, ecotoxicity, eutrophication, acidification, land stress, water stress, resource depletion. And basically, we are looking for the footprint on human health, biodiversity, ecosystem services, and natural resources. Once you identify this footprint, what is instrumental for incentivizing the corporate sector, but also the financial sector in engaging in the transition is to translate these human health benefits, biodiversity, ecosystem services benefits, natural resource benefit into monetary terms. There is something called total economic value in economics and nature accounting and non-market valuation methods. And this literature basically tries for many decades now, and this is one of the literature where 1/5 of my work is devoted to, is to translate these non-market benefits that will be created by circular economy, also by other technological transition processes like the use of renewables and nature-based solutions and climate adaptation projects and digitalization. But let's focus on circular economy, trying to transpose these non-market benefits, because human health is not explicitly marketed, or biodiversity, ecosystem services are not explicitly marketed. Natural resources, most of them are not explicitly marketed. So we don't know the unit price for these services. So what we need to do is try to translate this, for example, biophysical services into ecosystem functions and services, services to humans, and then translate this into benefits and then monetize these benefits. And understand that the price of a good should include its use value and non-use value, passive values. Use value is the direct use of the resource in your production, in your consumption process, but also the indirect use value refers to ecosystem services that sustain the ecosystem in a form, in a state of nature that allows you to continue producing and consuming like you do today. And maybe you don't take notice of those, but they are important, because as soon as you lose them, for example, you lose the ecosystem service of CO2 sequestration from forests, because you deforest, you engage in deforestation, and then you have climate change, and climate change translates into increased floodings, increased forest fires, increased heat waves, and these translate into increased deaths and increased loss and damages in infrastructure and losses in economic activity. So all of this needs to be calculated and included in the total economic value of the transition, of the change from linear to circular economy. And you also have non-use values, passive values, the willingness to pay to sustain the existence of a natural capital, for example, of the soil quality by reducing landfill, by increasing recycling, because you understand its value for ecosystem resilience, or because of cultural heritage reasons, religious reasons, whatever it may be. And not only existence values, but also altruistic values that have to do with bequest value, caring for other people, not just future generations, but also social care, and also the warm glow value, which is about feeling good because you are doing something good for the environment, for other people, and so on. So there are many techniques in economics, basically combining psychology, statistics, and econometrics that translate these values into monetary terms. And then once you translate all these, you are then able to do a cost-benefit analysis for the transition from linearity to circular economy. So you are going to add up all these values, all these monetary values that are created from this transition to circular economy processes. And I should say that circular economy is not about the economy, it's a change in the production process. The economy comes after you make the change, or when you are considering the change, in understanding how to translate all these footprint changes because of the change from linear to circular economy into monetary value. Once you do that, then you can compare how much you need to invest in order to make the transition in terms of capital investment, in terms of human capital investment, as well reskilling and upskilling, and also what are the benefits that are going to come. So we have to find the net present value of the net benefits. And this is where we concentrated in this amazing project that we were very happy to be part of, the Circular Economy Bioeconomy project. And basically, this project focused on launching novel circular economy services for SMEs and establishing centers that will trigger circular innovation implementation in business and supply management change. So basically what we propose is this new methodology that allows you to transpose the change in the footprint from the transition from linear to circular economy into monetary values. And we've tried to show the implementation of this methodology using a case study from Sporos platform. Sporos platform is the only Balkan circular economy focused venture capital. It utilizes sustainable mezzanine financing tools in the form of transition posts to SME. But not only it focuses on financing the transition to circular economy, it also encourages active participation of the investments into understanding what does it mean to make the transition to circular economy, what new investments you need, what upskilling and reskilling you mean, and most importantly, why it pays to do the change. Most importantly, we try to engage them in this process of implementing the methodology that I just shown you in order to understand how the change in the footprint on health and environment and natural capital and ecosystem services will bring them benefits. And what we focused on is one of the companies that are supported by Sporos platform in the fashion industry. This is a producer of high quality metal parts and wholesale supplier of fashion jewels who operates for 40 years in Athens and has production facilities, prototyping, IT, exports, design, and so on, and a turnover of 2.5 million with 55 employees. And what we first did is identified the system boundaries and where we see the transition to be happening. We used an LCA in the form of differential valuation, and we identified that mental casting control, that is that process which basically refines the mental circulation avoidance and mental temperature control, can be significantly changed to circular processes in order to reduce the footprint of the industry. And now we are working on the monetization of the estimated impact using the total economic value structure that I showed you. I don't want to present the final results of the estimates here because we need to get the permission of the company to do so. But I can tell you that these different changes in the footprint of the company that will derive mainly by changing mental circulation avoidance and mental temperature control have been evaluated using the value transfer approach, which is basically an approach that collects estimates, monetary estimates of such changes across many different other studies, and use statistical approaches to identify the monetary estimate for the change, to identify the monetary benefits that will be produced to the company by this transition. As soon as we have the very final refined results and presented to the company and get clearance, we will publish these results, and we will also announce them, and we will also showcase how this method can be transferred to each and every circular transition that one wants to consider. I will leave it here by saying that it's not just a circularity that we need to have in our minds when considering this transition. We need a systemic framework. We need to understand that a company has to address simultaneously multiple objectives and be able to produce the right mixture, not just of technological solutions, but also responses to the policy instruments that are there in the economy. And it's not just innovation in terms of technological innovation that will be crucial. What will be crucial, it will be the financial innovation, how we reconceptualize our financial instruments in order to support the investments that are needed to take our companies to circularity. And in our UN SDSN report, we identify exactly how we can use financial instruments to make companies switch towards sustainable practices soonest, because this will be the companies that will be most competitive, more innovative, and more successful over time. I will leave it here, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this. Actually, it was really, really informative. I need to delete half of my presentation. Thank you for all these amazing thoughts. I would only underline the last one, that the innovation that we're tackling here must be systemic and cannot only be driven by technology. Next to actually technological, we really need to see what are the new financial flows, what is the new type of capitalization, and also I would also bring here the society into mix. So what are the social innovation that we need to understand and actually adopt in order to be in order to be accepted by the society. If we try, okay, there is one initiative that we started here. I will expound a little bit later, but it is discovered that we really need to tackle social part of the circular economy as soon as possible, because if not, we will just have some distant techno-driven development that is not suited for the people.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
Thank you very much. I would here like to invite all the participants to ask questions via questions and answers tab that you can find in the Zoom interface. But if not, you can always use chat option to ask additional questions to our panelists. With this, I would like to invite also everyone to be part actually of the Circular Economy Beacons, being that we are organizing a workshop, and I will just try to copy and paste this. We're organizing a workshop in order to showcase and, well, basically build more questions about how to implement, build more answers on the question of how to implement circular economy and how to prove the circular economy works in companies. This will be facilitated by our partner research center Athena, and it will be organized on the 17th of December from 4 to 5:30 CET time. And I've just posted the link so you can register if you would like to. Maybe Elitsa or Professor Kunduri or Lydia would have to say something in the course of our further conversation or further presentation about this event. But this is just a call to see how this works really on the ground, and it would be a nice occasion to involve also new collaborators in the project. With this, I would like to transfer talk to our dear Bulgarian partners with Mariana Hamanova, which is the Executive Director of Cleantech Bulgaria. And we are going to discover more about the opportunities of urban and rural cooperation, actually urban-rural cooperation, in the frame of circular bioeconomy. Mariana, it's a pleasure to welcome you. And you're muted. Hopefully you can unmute. Okay, now?
Okay, now I hope you hear me. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. Thank you for this opportunity to be part of the fifth workshop and webinar of our great consortium. Nice to meet you again, and I will start directly with my presentation, sharing the screen. Because today we decided to dedicate the discussion on a topic which I think it's a potential opportunity to be further developed. I'm sorry for this, I have to start it from the beginning, yeah. For the next year's activities of the project, because it's correct that we are focusing on circular economy, but lately the European Commission has set some new definitions and adding the circular economy concept with the circular bioeconomy. And that's why I decided to have a brief introduction of an experience that we had this year within one cooperation with the Bulgarian Small and Medium Enterprise Agency that is focusing on the circular bioeconomy development in the country. What I wanted to share with you is, for the ones who don't know Cleantech Bulgaria, we are a partner of the Circular Beacons project, but also we act as EIT Climate Kick Hub in Bulgaria, as well as together with Climate Kick, we are hub managers for EIT Manufacturing and EIT Food, which allow us to see this cross-sectoral cooperation between the different industries and to find innovative solutions arriving from different sectors that have quite extensive impact on the climate as well. This said, within 2021, we have been working on several activities besides the communication and dissemination one and workshops like this one. We have undergo several activities related to the circular assessment of manufacturing companies. We had 2 companies which were initially assessed about their readiness to start implementing circularity, as well as we have organized educational workshop with municipalities, with 2 municipalities here in Bulgaria that are working on the update of their waste management plans, adding the circular economy as one very strategic topic into the waste management strategy of the municipality. And we expect some interesting developments around that in the next year. What I wanted to emphasize on is something that probably also in the other Balkan countries it's the same situation, because right now in the last 3-4 years we all have been implementing different different activities related to circular economy, and right now with this new definition of the circular bioeconomy, we have we done a small research seeing that there is no officially adopted definition of the circular bioeconomy, but it is very much incorporated in the strategy for the agricultural sector, in Bulgaria at least, which is going to a different ministry. And we had several conversations with them on how this production of renewable biological resources, meaning biomass, and also waste from food sector and organic products can be incorporated better in these processes. Also something which is quite important, I think that here we should extend the coverage of the circular economy also to the forestry and fisheries, because these 2 domains are also having a very big impact on the circular economy as a whole, together with the rest of the sectors, like you see on the 3rd bullet, textile, furniture, pharma industry, chemical industry, construction and energy industries. So what is specifically interesting for Bulgaria, showing the potential of the bioeconomy and its influence on the circular economy as a whole, is that Bulgaria has generated, these are some old data, unfortunately we didn't find a new one, but they will be probably updated in the next couple of months. The bioeconomy generated 3.7 billion of the gross value added, which is positioning us among, I think, the top 10 of in the European Union countries which are having this potential generated by the bioeconomy sector. As well as the agricultural sector in Bulgaria occupies over 50% of the gross value added. And that's why the employed people and engaged industries in this sector are quite important, I should say. The next slide shows what has been done in the framework of the Rural Area Development Program, which is supporting mainly the agri-food producers and the agri-food sectors. So this is good for us, I mean, for the consortium of the project to really understand how we can approach this sector more closely in the next year, because at least in Bulgaria, there were a lot of young farmers and SMEs supported through the program, and they have implemented different innovative technologies and have bought and then integrated in their daily business. So this means that all these target groups are essential for us, and we can work with them on the next steps when we start really implementing approaches on supporting companies towards the transition. The farmers have significant increased their ability to work in this sector, and actually they now realize very much what are the economic triggers not only the environmental triggers. And this is very important because this is something that sometimes we're struggling with, convincing the companies to understand how important these activities related to circularity are for their own businesses. What we see now is that the productivity and exports of these enterprises are increasing, and there are also several developments related to eco-labeling, which is very important in the agri-food sector as well, and also other triggers that are moving the people from urban to rural areas, which is also something that in Climate Kick we have discussed this several times, how important it is, this rural-urban cooperation and connection. And in this context, I think that the circular bioeconomy has a great potential to be this transformative agent who can convince the people to get back to the rural areas and develop their sustainable businesses, and not only concentrate the whole economic power in the biggest cities of the country. So here again, of course, talking about urban-rural development, we always get to something very important, which is the infrastructure, so the transport infrastructure as well, and access to education for the children, for the young people. The situation in Bulgaria right now is the following, so it is very much the same like in the whole Europe, I believe, but almost 2/3 of the SMEs are concentrated in the 5 districts, which are around the biggest cities in the country: Sofia, Plovdiv, Varna, Burgas, and Blagoevgrad. And these centers are well developed in terms of economic development, but also access to education, access to kindergartens, access to health services, and so on. That's why these discrepancies are very important to be, in a way, eliminated in order to have this proper circular economy in action activity, because we cannot count only on the urban areas. We really should move to the rural places and bring this approach further to the farmers, to the SMEs working on different processing industry domains, and so on. The Common Agricultural Policy, I think it was adopted a couple of weeks ago from the European Commission. It sets in objective number 8 a high value on the social inclusion, local development, and employment in rural areas. And I believe that this will be the main aspect where the circular bioeconomy is getting in action. So here we have several topics and challenges that are listed in the Common Agricultural Policy, and they're related to the reduction of the dependency of non-renewable sources, the food security, the limiting climate change and protecting the biodiversity and natural resources, as well as strengthening the dialogue between the bioeconomy stakeholders in the rural areas. And with this bringing and making the competitiveness and economic growth higher for these sectors. One also important point here, which is listed in the agricultural policy, is the vocational training and acquisition of practical knowledge, where I believe we as a project, our Circular Beacon consortia, can bring value, because we are very good in this training and capacity building component. And I believe that next year is the time to really go on the ground and start working with these people, start working with these businesses in order to go towards this circular transition. As you see, the stakeholders are the same like for all other societal challenges. So here we have nothing new for no one of us. So we should bring this system innovation approach in the smaller communities, in the smaller cities, in the rural areas, and work exactly in the same way how we work here with municipalities on larger scale for system innovation approaches with the local players, with the local stakeholders, just minimizing the scope of our work. But this is definitely also the stakeholders that we need to engage in order to be able to achieve this systemic change. And also we have identified one project which next year will be further developed, as I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation. It is in partnership, it's an Interreg project under the Danube Transnational Program. And one of the partners is the Bulgarian SME agency, so they put a great added value on this. And are eager to work together with our consortium in the next year on the topic rural circular economy. And I think that it's a good opportunity to reflect on this and plan some concrete activities in that direction in 2022. And because I know that we are a little bit out of time, I have limited my presentation with a focus on the next year, with a great thanks to all the partners that have been working together with us this year for achieving the very ambitious goals that we have set in this project, and with a wish for nice Christmas holidays to everyone. And very much all the team of Cleantech Bulgaria is looking forward to see you all, hopefully in person in 2022, and work together on the next steps of the Circular Economy Beacons. Thank you very much.
Mariana, thank you very much for the presentation. So as a main conclusion, one of major industrial areas in our region is agriculture, production of food, and basically bioeconomy. And it makes sense to really connect these things, and therefore maybe we will see what kind of, well, also in my presentation you will see what kind of opportunities there are in the future for the whole region. But it makes a huge importance to underline this reuse and underuse potential of the bio part of the economy in our region. Thank you, Mariana. And with this, I will transfer to our next speaker, which is Mr. Vedat Sulic, Director of Rates from Bosnia and Herzegovina. And he will tell us a little bit more about the overall state of play in Bosnia and the circular economy development. So, Vedat, what is happening in Bosnia in 2021? Now?
No, it's okay.
Okay,
thank you, Milan, very much. So just let me share the screen. So I hope you can see it all. So it's a pleasure really to speak shoulder to shoulder with such great speakers on this webinar, and I'm delighted to see a mix of people from different countries in the session. So we are happy really to share some of our results we achieved on the path towards circular economy in REIC. And at the very beginning, I have to emphasize the importance of Climate Kick and Circular Economy Beacons project, which really for us internally represents a great milestone in this regard. But today I was asked to speak about the achievements and actually the state of play of circular economy in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So what's going on and what should be going on in the future. I have also to apologize that I will have, unfortunately, to jump out at 11:35, but for all questions you might have, my colleague Adna, she's also present at the webinar. She will be at your disposal if you have any questions. So I will just very briefly introduce who we are, just very, very brief. So we are an organization established back in 2005 within the project Environmental Education for Sustainable Development project. It was a project headed by UNESCO Venice office, joined together implemented by the universities of Bologna and Sarajevo, and the aim of the project, and also which is I would say entailed in the vision of our organization is to be a focal point for the capacity building processes for environmental education and sustainable development in Southeast Europe. And this is the core of our activities, actually, what we do through RAKE and also the region. We are working directly or indirectly through regional partnerships like the Circular Economy Beacons.
Sorry for interrupting. We see your presenter mode, I think, or something that is not full screen, and I guess that the slides are not moving. So maybe you can share again. Yeah, yes. Now we can see it's moving, but it's not full screen. It's okay if you want to leave it like that, but just to know.
In my case, it's full screen. I don't know. So yeah, I will leave it in like this. So just let me increase it a little bit. Sorry.
Okay, perfect.
Okay now?
Fine, thank you.
I don't know what happened, but anyhow. So we are dealing in different fields, from climate change adaptation and mitigation and renewable energy sources, which is, I would say, in the foundation of our organization, those topics, but also as times changes and also some other opportunities arise, we also integrated them in our operation work, and also circular economy is one of them, a topic we are working for a couple of years actively. So why to have a circular economy in Bosnia and Herzegovina? There are plenty of reasons. I don't have to talk too much about it, and I would say there is a quite similarity in this regard in the other Balkan countries. Unfortunately, it is the case that circular economy, not just in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but in most of the cases, is equal with waste management, which is obviously not the case. But if we talk to the lens of waste management, so then definitely circular economy can be looked at like in this picture shown. The reason why we need is that a huge amount, the vast majority of the waste we produce is disposed on landfills, which in Bosnia and Herzegovina are not all legal. So we have a lot of illegal dump sites, especially in small settlements and small cities. So there is an official data that close to 90% of the total waste generated is being disposed permanently, which is definitely a waste of resources and imposes heavily environmental pollution and so on. Another reason is also that the resource productivity rate in Bosnia and Herzegovina is very low in comparison to EU average, and especially in comparison to some leading European countries like the Swiss and the Netherlands. So for the same amount of GDP produced, we consume much more resources, or you can put it in another way around. So we have, in general, we have a very, very low resource productivity rate, which is, as you can see in the picture in the left corner, quite similar for the Balkan countries. So also Serbia, Bulgaria, Romania are below the average of European Union. Some of the current barriers for circular economy in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which are mostly related to waste management, as I said, the recycling rate is very low, although we have in place laws which regulate especially packaging waste, but also other waste like waste of electrical components. However, the recycling rate in general is very low. Just few cities have separate waste collection. So in this regard, there is also a lack of infrastructure to undertake even recycling. And that's one of the primary reasons why this rate is very, very low. In general, circular economy is not directly recognized within the legislation. Obviously, we don't have a circular economy law, which doesn't have to be per se a law, but there is no some kind of systematic or holistic approach towards circular economy, which means that circular economy can be defined indirectly, mostly through the legislation which is relevant for waste management. On the other hand, we have very weak subventions for reducing, reusing, or recycling of waste, which means there are no financial incentives for the circular economy, or better said, there are indirect or hidden incentives actually for the linear economy, which is not just the case in the circular economy. You can find it also in other sectors a large portion of hidden subsidies, which goes to, for instance, in the energy sector and the fossil for the fossil fuels. There is also a huge lack of investment, human and technical capacities to cope with the circular economy issues. It's I would say, pretty new topic in most of the institutions, especially authorities we have to work with. Just the last year, in somewhere around this period of 2020, the Circular Economy Beacons conducted a survey on the level of awareness and capacity in context of the circular economy in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which proved that this is very, very low. Also, one very important thing, which is not just related to circular economy, you can find it also in other fields, that we don't have cross-cutting cooperation or synchronization of different fields like the energy, mobility, industry, waste, air, water, etc. For instance, a couple of years ago, it was in 2018, we adopted the framework energy strategy, which is totally isolated in terms of joint cross-cutting issues with the waste sector, with mobility, with industry or others. Also, when you take into account the mobility strategy, or actually the transport strategy, which was just adopted 1 year before that, so in 2017, again, it doesn't mention anything regarding these cross-cutting issues. Now there is an attempt, or actually there is undergoing preparation of the energy strategy of Bosnia and Herzegovina and for the entities. And in this regard, it's an opportunity to make a systematic approach towards these cross-cutting issues, and also which is relevant for the circular economy. But unfortunately, as far to our knowledge, there is very little mentioning of circular economy in this strategic document. Again, lack of policies towards sustainable development and circular public procurement is something we also miss. There have been many, I would say, many soft projects in regards to green public procurement, but it didn't came to implementation in none of the institutions. Also, something we are facing is lack of willingness or awareness of the government officials in the context of circular economy. So in general, waste management is currently the main thing you have to look up when talking about the governance of circular economy, like it or not, but that's how it is. So there are laws on waste management in Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Republika Srpska, and Brčko district. So it's divided on entity level, and there are in total something like 21 bylaws for these laws, which treat different types of waste and different streams of waste. And it's true that we have bylaws for different packaging waste like glass, metal, paper, plastic, wood, multi-layer materials, packaging waste, and electronic waste. But in general, it cannot be said that this is being done in a systematic way, or even it's stimulating circular economy. So it's mostly, and the principal goal of these bylaws is to reduce the disposing, or actually to increase the recycling of this waste. The hidden agenda, to be very honest with you, with these bylaws, is actually to reduce the fees which companies have to pay for putting packaging waste onto the market and operating with it. So that's the true, I would say, reason and implementation for the implementation of these bylaws. Talking about the key milestones for circular economy in Bosnia and Herzegovina, or I can say for the Western Balkans, is presented on this slide. So in 2015, we had the first Circular Economy Action Plan adopted by the European Commission. Then in 2019, the European Green Deal, the second action plan for circular economy into 2020, the EU taxonomy, and late 2020, the adoption of the Green Agenda for Western Balkan, actually the signing of the Sofia Declaration, which was a very important milestone for the Western Balkans, and also for Bosnia and Herzegovina in terms of circular economy, because one of the 5 pillars of the Sofia Declaration is circular economy, and for some reason many also projects were initiated after the adoption of the Sofia Declaration, and there is a remarkable difference in terms of the number of projects geared towards circular economy in comparison to previous year, although I have to admit that most of the projects can be classified as soft projects like raising awareness, capacity building, etc. Whereas the implementation of circular economy on the ground in the companies is still expected. So we are now in the process of the creation of the roadmap for the circular economy in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which should cover the period of 5 years from 2022 to 2027. It's currently under development, and we expect quite soon to have this document being published. Also, this year was, as far to our knowledge, the first call which was published which has a dedicated team for circular economy. It was published by the Environmental Fund of Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina in July 2021. So in general, to summarize, there are positive signs that the circular economy is being more recognized from the donor side as well, but also from more and more organizations are dealing with this topic. Although there is no official statistics in this regard, but according to our know-how, I would say that just 1 year ago, you had a couple of organizations dealing with circular economy. Now you have 20 to 30 organizations which are implementing different kind of projects in the field of circular economy. So, as I said, the Sofia Declaration is a very important milestone and a very important thing we have to look up when talking about a circular economy and thinking about it. The Regional Cooperation Council, which is headquartered in Sarajevo, but it's covering actually the Western Balkans, is preparing the action plan for the implementation of the Sofia Declaration, and I think it also should be published very soon. Some draft materials have been provided, and this is out of these draft materials. So also the action plan is completely in line with the Sofia Declaration. So it covers 5 different topics. Circular economy is one of them. And as you can see in this action plan, the circular economy aspects which are important to consider are listed in these 7 bullet points. The first one is to improve the sustainability of primary production of raw materials, which can find its correlation with the first slide I emphasized, the weak resource productivity. Then also to develop circular economy strategies, looking at the entire life cycle of the products, apply industrial ecosystem approach, regional agreement for plastic pollution prevention, and some organizations like the German Development Corporation, GIZ, is working already on this for a couple of years to reduce marine litter, because marine litter is a huge problem which has to be also considered on the land area. So it's not just a problem of the people living on the coastlines. So also further progress in the construction and maintenance of waste management infrastructure for cities and regions. And in fact, this is also one of the a similarity of synergy can be found in the project we are implementing within the Circular Economy Beacons. It's also that local communities, cities, municipalities are one of the target groups, and actually REIC is having one webinar just dedicated for local communities Friday this week about circular economy. The smart specialization strategies is another important point of the action plan. As far as I know, Serbia has worked on it and I guess also adopted this smart specialization strategy. Honestly, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, this is something which is completely untouched as far to our knowledge. So this is something we in Bosnia and Herzegovina will have to work on in the coming period. And also rising awareness is an aspect which is recognized within this action plan as important to work on. Within the project CrossKick, we did a system mapping of different actors and different role of these actors within the circular economy in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I guess many of you had the opportunity to work with this tool where you can very easily in a graphical way present different actors and their actions and how they are interlinked. So it's, I think, very hard to see it on this picture, but if you like, we can provide you with a link which is publicly available to have a look on this. Maybe this table can help further, which has been done actually through another project, but it's very similar. It's quite similar to this one. We have grouped the stakeholders and their role in circular economy in 6 different groups. So public authorities, academia, expert organizations like NGOs, think tanks and consultants, foundations and international organizations, international funds, and business sector, meaning companies and associations. So all of them have different roles and different, I would say, responsibilities in terms of the circular economy. And within different projects, we are addressing different type of stakeholders. So in the regard of this project, Circular Economy Beacons, we are mostly working with public authorities like representatives of the local communities, cities, and so on, but also with the business sector and associations. Through other projects, we work with different organizations like the international funds, which mostly support entrepreneurship and innovation. So Bosnia and Herzegovina, unfortunately, due to its status in terms of EU accession, has quite limited access to European funds. Mostly we have access to cross-border cooperation programs, either bilateral or multilateral programs, and some other research and development programs like the Horizon Europe and so on. Frankly speaking, there are very limited funds available, not just for projects related to circular economy, but in general, talking about sustainable development, although somebody could tell it's different, but in general, the funds are quite very limited. What I mentioned is that this document is under development. It's the Bosnia and Herzegovina ESAP, the Environmental Strategy and Action Plan for the period until 2030 plus. So this is the first ever national strategy for environment in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which will also consist of 3 entity strategies for Federation Bosnia and Herzegovina and Republika Srpska, and it encompasses or it entails 7 different policy areas, where you can see that waste is one of them. And if you look up the draft documents and the papers we have received so far, is that circular economy is mentioned, I emphasize this, only 11 times. So within the entire action plan. For us, we think it's quite weak, and the emphasis should be greater in this context. Also, some other projects, many other projects are running or have been running in 2021 in regards to circular economy. These are some of them we have been working on. The CrossKick project I mentioned just recently, and also another one we implemented with the support of the Swedish government is management of waste oil from restaurants and hotels, and how to achieve circularity in this regard. So as you can see, there are many projects like this. The one I would really like to emphasize is this one, implemented by the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, which had the aim to select different companies which turned to be very good case studies of the implementation of circular economy from different sectors, from the food sector, from the wood processing sector, and so on. And all these organizations received significant grants for procurement of different equipment or imposing different procedures, all together linking to circular economy. So in general, currently NGOs and business operators are among the key drivers for circular economy transition in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is easily can be seen if you look up all the projects which have been implemented so far. So NGOs and business operators dominate in this regard. In terms of the academia, there is a huge potential to develop circular economy curriculums in all the universities in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and this is something which should be part of standard curriculums in different universities, we believe. And the key areas of intervention are related to renewable energy, textile, plastic, raw materials, and manufacturing, including food. So these are some of the most potent, I would say, sectors in terms of circular economy in Bosnia and Herzegovina. When it comes to us, REIC, we will continue to contribute to a circular economy transition in Bosnia and Herzegovina through different activities like research, raising awareness, and promoting green ideas. So within this project, the circular economy, we are on one hand also raising our internal capacities, but also expanding opportunities here in Bosnia and Herzegovina and also in the region. And we are very much looking forward in the coming period to work on this agenda. And something which I would like to finish with is actually what we see as the key challenge for Bosnia and Herzegovina in terms of circular economy is to achieve a systematic approach. So towards the transition of circular economy. Unfortunately, I have to admit that I'm not very much optimistic in this regard that we will achieve this due to a very complex administrative setup in our country. However, this will and will remain an issue we have to work on, and this is also for us an opportunity to work on this to achieve a systematic approach in terms of institutions, in terms of legislation, in terms of project implementation, and so on, to have a streamlined approach towards the circular economy in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And thanks to projects like the Circular Economy Beacons, I think that we can contribute to some extent to achieving this goal. And yeah, I would finish with this, and I remain and also for any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's 11:26. It's maybe the final time to ask you one more question if you if you can answer. And that is, what is cooking now in circular economy in Bosnia and Herzegovina? What do you see as a development maybe in 2022? What's the next step that you see it's happening?
So there are many projects, large projects, which are kicked off. So as far as I know, the United Nations Development Program is preparing one special dedicated project in this regard, because they made an agreement with RCC to take over a part of their mandate on circular economy. I'm not aware of the specifics of this and the elements of the project, but I can assume that there will be again something towards the capacity building of important stakeholders, including the SMEs, but also general public. But also what I can expect also that they will, given the mandate UNDP has and the authority they have, that they will also go towards imposing some changes in the legislation. So that's something I heard will happen. And also some other organizations which are working on are mostly focusing on capacity building and actually imposing circular economy transition in the manufacturing industry, manufacturing sector. So we can expect that the industry will be, or the companies itself, they will be more included in the projects in the coming period.
Thank you very much. With this being said, I would like to transfer to our next speaker, being that we have, we're kind of squeezing the time for the two of us. So I'm happy to announce Karol Janusz, project coordinator at Chamber of Commerce in Timish County. And he will be telling us a little bit more about what is the the difference between individual and group liability, and the involvement of this topic inside of circular economy development. Janos, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, the nice word. I greeting everyone. When I find my share to the screen, I would like to keep it shortly, and I would like to talk about particularly about the current situation in Romania, what we will have we do in the next year, what will we do a big step to the circular economy to reaching. And the other hand, I would like to talk about what the chamber doing related with the beacons now in Romania. I am Károly János Szűcs. I'm Hungarian and moved to Romania, and I have more than 10 years experience in waste management at one of the biggest retail company in Hungary. I also run my consultancy company related to waste optimization, giving training and support to the retail industry. In all these years, my work was related to circularity thinking. One of the most easiest way to approach it, reduce the waste quantity by optimizing the material flow. Getting comfortable with the sustainability is one of my personal targets. Determination to change the system comes from the understanding how systems work, and that we can have a better future if we are willing to work together. My presentation today will focus on the personal and group liability when it comes to the circular economy. In Romania is a common mindset that others are responsible, is not my fault, is not my problem, I don't do it because the others are not doing it. My background related to waste, and even though this is not only the topic when it comes to the circular economy, but it's easy for all of us to relate to it. With the current activation process in Romania, today the beverage packaging collection recovery rate is around 30%, well below the 65% target for the European Union by 2025. 2025 is really far. 1 year ago, at a Beacons conference, similar the time in December, I'm talking about that the deposit system is the only chance for Romania to solve the problem of the beverage packaging collection. In 2021, come a big breakthrough in the Romanian legislation. We finally have the deposit regulation. At least a law, a timeline and hopefully full implementation in 2021 in the next year. 9 of 10 Romanian customers stated they agree with the system implementation as a solution for raising awareness of the fact that each person has responsibility in protecting the environment and keeping it clean. As of 1st of October 2022, Romanian consumers will have to pay a mandatory deposit of half around that is 10 eurocents, for each bottle beverage they buy. The deposit will be applicable to non-refillable primary packaging made of glass, plastic, or metal. To implement the new legislation provision, these containers will be marked with distinctive symbol and a special barcode. The deposit return system should help improve the collection rate for the recyclable waste. Experiences gained by the other countries, like in Germany, can provide the important tips for the process of shaping, implementing the system. Introducing a deposit system are highly complicated. When we discuss about the deposit systems, we first think about the producer. They should inform how to the labor packaging and the additional costs of the participating of the system. After we have the shops, the retailers and the duties, they should inform them about the rules of the system operation, how to rearrange the sales space, adjust financing system and employee training. But what about the consumers? We need education, awareness campaigns, and common objectives. Notify them that about the change made, the deposit fee to be paid, and the ways of getting refund. It's important to stress those that we all work in systems. Understanding the actors, the stakeholders involved is the first step of understanding the system, what we would want to change. The target Romania has for increasing the recycling rates seems too optimistic. But if we focus on the individual liability, what if we involve all the stakeholders of the system? What if we don't share all the responsibility? The main question in 2022 for the next year in Romania, that the system could start and between the actors, the transactions and flows will be feasible. Let's talk now about the chamber, why we joined the Circular Economy Beacon. Starts with the why, how Simon Sinek said. First of all, we are catalyzer between the private sector and the public administration. Our role is to facilitate the dialogue between actors. So we are the relationship, we are the connection, is our role to be a trendsetter, a beacon. We want to be a leading organization in the transformation of the system, building capacity for both the private and the public sector. We're providing support, training, and consultative services. We started building our capacity, developing our skills, participating in the trainers, knowledge sharing workshops with our partners. In 2020, we focused on companies, providing training for the employees of the companies, guiding them to become a circular and assessing and supporting their roadmaps. In 2021, we focused on the public sector, providing local governments with training and support in understanding circular economy concepts, but also the need and the benefits of the joint programming. We are not stopping here. We are continuing the work with the private companies and also with the decision makers in 2022 and beyond. What you see on the map, it is the training that we did not so far in the country for the municipalities employees. In Romania, we are happy to cover a large part of the country, so not only the western parts where we are based. We had participants from municipalities and county councils, big cities representative or small village, all eager to understand that the circularity concepts plan together and design projects that we have communities be more circular. Our will will continue next year. we have a big challenge and a responsibility that together we put into action the skills we developed together. So coming back to my last slide, to the title of my presentation, individual group liability when we talk about the circular economy. I believe we are all accountable for the decisions. We have an individual responsibility, but as we act in a systemic ways, we have to agree on our group liability, decide on common targets, and work together in order to achieve them. Thank you for the attention. If you have any question, I will be here to answer it.
Thank you, Karoly, very much. So, us stepping into the domain of urban development and circular economy is really basically making the difference when we talk about how to tackle circular economy from the urban point of view or the local government point of view. Is that currently it's only seen as an environmental protection and waste management. We're trying to give a new light or a new dimension of circularity in the cities, so as to way to develop the urban, urban services and basically urban ecosystem, if we can call it like that. So develop an innovation before just waste management. So that means like a step away from the common narrative that we have. Thank you, Karoly. And the last, but maybe not the least, we're gonna tell a little bit about what is happening in Serbia in regards to circular economy in the region. And most of the topics were covered by my colleagues in regards to the regional development. So I will not focus on them, but I will tell a little bit more about what had happened in Serbia in the last 350 something days. So hopefully this works. Good. So currently what we have is actually a myriad of developments in the civil society sector, in the companies or business sector, and also on the policy side of developing towards circular economy. These are bigger steps than last year, but definitely we need to step up by a large margin if we want to create new ways of how the development works in Serbia, and if we want to step into the real circular economy game. That means involving many more actors. That means involving information and media into the common development story. That means really integrated development with academia and innovation centers or research and development centers. So, and finally, well, we had multiple workshops during this year. One single message really stands out is that nobody can work on circular economy alone. And even though it's hard, we know it's hard, but we need to start collaborating cross-sectoral. Otherwise, it's not going to be a systemically developed circular economy. It's going to be a sporadically developed, technology-driven, as we have mentioned at the beginning from the Professor Kunduri's presentation. So in Serbia, what we have is starting of the basically deployment of the strategy, industrial policy strategy of Ministry of Economy, where certain initiatives has been started to, let's call it, roll out. And this industrial policy until 2030 actually expounds circular economy as one of the pillars for development of Serbian industry. And these are three main goals for this pillar of the circular economy. So promoting the circular economy, these initiatives and activities have already started, fostering investments in circular and low carbon solutions as engines of growth. I would add this and development, and then at the end fostering more efficient use of material resources and energy efficiency in industrial processes. This is very important, the last two ones, because but also very important to take it as a systemic development, because investors and new indicators for investing are not going to be far away from the circularity indicators. And at the end, the efficient use of materials is important, because in Serbia, and also I think we saw this in Bosnian presentation, that Serbia is also using 8 to 10 times more material to produce whatever value. So to produce $1 of value, €1 of value, and also it's using 8 to 10 times more energy than the average European Union country or the average of European Union actor. So we're using 8 to 10 times more energy to produce a single unit of value. So this is really a space for improvement, and it will not be fostered only with the new technologies, because it will be an expensive, purely technology-driven development. So the suggestion from the Circular Economy Beacons is also to involve society and involve a lot of collaboration between between sectors, so to become cross-sectoral collaboration. Stemming on this, the program for circular economy of the Republic of Serbia is on the way, in progress. It is being drafted and it will be completed very soon. From the point of Ministry of Environmental Protection. And this program is actually very important, because it will generate the guidelines of how to, where to focus and how to develop circular economy in next few years. And here we are really talking about innovation. We're talking about education and academia, basically producing new skilled workforce. We're talking about the energy transition and energy efficiency, etc., etc. We're talking, of course, about the municipal waste and local development in domain of circular economy. And it is this program was based on the roadmap that was done in collaboration between United Nations Development Program in Serbia and Ministry of Environmental Protection. And this actually leans on the roadmap and the ex-ante analysis that was done before a couple of years back. Well, a couple of years back, I think it was 2 years back. Greening. So the one of the initiatives that I said, the myriad of development is, and this is very important to see that the civil society is taking a bigger step into collaborative mode of circular economy. And this initiative will bring a lot of new insights about how to deal with circular economy transition, especially in regards to capacity raise and research on the potential of development for the local municipalities and circular economy. One of the conclusions was that civil society organizations need to step in the game of collaboration and opening the dialogue with local municipalities and decision makers. One of the initiatives that my colleague has presented, it was EIT Cross-Kick initiative that has also been done in Serbia. We have managed to get 33 stakeholders from all domains. So that means that from international organizations, ministries, local governments, business side, consultancies, NGO and regular, and also media and regular citizens, to discuss about what is the potential, what could be the pathways to drive circular economy in an innovative way in Serbia. So we have drafted 22 challenges and created 5 drafts. Really, these are draft programs or prototypes of programs that could be taken on by either funders or international development organizations or any of the stakeholders that find these things interesting. We will be publishing this report by the beginning of next year. And these are, well, just the last thing that is important is that we've created a sketch of innovation agenda that we would like to continue working on, and of course with collaboration with these and many other stakeholders. Chamber of Commerce and Industries in Serbia had created a platform for collaboration, and that's exactly what we were talking about. And for circular economy, so now mainly the private bodies or the companies will be able to communicate, exchange experience, knowledge, and require maybe a service or require services through this platform. This is very important because a single point of communication was necessary for circular economy development, and therefore this is the first step towards that goal. As well as Chamber of Commerce also have started with the initiative for or on industrial symbiosis, which had just started, but it definitely is seen as one of the main areas where a circular economy needs to be developed in the domain of how the business develops. And one of the bigger calls this and last year was the UNDP initiative together with GEF and Ministry of Environmental Protection that was aiming for calling the innovators, but calling for innovations that could reduce the carbon footprint by employing circular economy principles. And in this moment, I would ask Miss Anna Seke if she's with us still. Okay, she is. And I would just invite Anna to join us in this call and maybe tell us a little in a minute or two about a new call that is launched or is to be launched from the UNDP side. Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Milan. Hope you all can hear me well. It is my pleasure to join this event today. Yes, Milan already mentioned that a new project which will officially start from the 1st of January is called Reducing Community Carbon Footprint by Applying Circular Economy Approach. We already had a pre-challenge call, and we received 50 applications, mainly coming from private sector with innovative solutions and business models, how in which way principles of the circular economy can be implemented in practice. And during the next year, we will work with the selected 30 teams, providing them technical support through the project accelerator. This is a model which we used in the past through the Climate Smart Urban Development Project, which is now close to the end, where we also had nice examples of innovative solutions which applied principles of circular economy in practice. I will share with you the link to some of the videos where you can see how it worked in the practice. But as Milan said, we will continue this practice to the new GEF-funded project, and during the next year we will have also additional call for cooperation between private sector and research institutions, providing them some seed money for additional analysis, certification of or some let's say other activities which can support the private sector in implementing principles of the circular economy in practice. We will also have a new call next year supporting the implementation of the green agenda in Serbia, where the focus will also be on the principles of the circular economy defined as broad as possible. I heard the colleagues from other countries providing examples and saying how it functions. We are focusing not only on waste, but we would like to include other sectors as well and provide them technical assistance and support to implement their circular projects in practice. I just also wanted, because colleagues mentioned the policy part, and Milan also mentioned what we have in Serbia. yes, program is under development and it will be adopted in the first quarter of the next year. But through the JEF-funded projects, we will prepare a new roadmap for circular economy version 2. And after that, the new program for the following 3 years, which means that we will provide a ministry the continuity in developing these, let's say, major strategic documents, but we will also support them in developing special bylaws, which are necessary, as you all mentioned, to implement projects in practice. And I just want also to say that in cooperation with the Chamber of Commerce, we develop a platform for the circular economy, and we can also share the link for you to check. Unfortunately, the English version is still under development, but Serbian version is there, and you can see how in which way we wanted to put together different actors from the private sector, but also to invite others like public companies, research institutions, but also financial institutions, which are crucial for implementing all these projects in practice. So this is just in short from my side, but I'm also here for other questions and comments.
Thank you, Anna, very much. So you feel free to share the links with us, and we will, if you cannot share directly with the remaining of the audience, we'll definitely do this for you. So yeah, two main things: the roadmap volume 2 is going out, and also the new call for basically for this title, with this title, reducing community carbon footprint by a circular economy approach, will be out in January. So everyone for Serbia that wants to follow and the ones who would like to apply for the innovation call, well, follow the link and follow the UNDP Serbia site. Thank you, Anna. And I would then move on. Basically, the last thing is that we realize that we need to engage people and citizens in order to understand how they understand circular economy and also to understand what they would like to see as circular economy solutions, products, services, etc. There are some conclusions that we are currently drafting as in our report, but we created a application call, or the open call for citizen engagement in domain of circular economy, and that was actually done last week, and we realized that there are some great initiatives for the city transformation, from the urban citizenship transformations within Serbia, and that's what we realize most probably we will delve even deeper next year in this domain. So key message for the end is that we need to bound citizens, decision makers, innovation capacity, and private sector in the transition towards circular economy in order to succeed to do this. Basically, Circular Economy Beacons is trying to do this in a region, on a macro regional level, so on the regional of the Balkan Peninsula, and in that way connect the actors between countries so we can not only foster but speed up the development of circular economy. Two main portals that we managed to make arrangement of following circular economy also for this project will be the energy portal, energetski portal in Serbia, and Center for Promotion of Circular Economy in Serbia. So if you would like to hear about the news and if you're interested in circular economy and the recent developments in that from the region and also from Serbia, we are definitely suggesting to visit these two sites. And one of the things that we've talked about what happened, but what is the situation in Serbia? So what we did is the needs assessment basically for 4 countries in the region, and we're now finalizing the Serbian needs assessment. And this needs assessment have been done in 3 domains of circular economy, but already mentioned, which is the innovation in academia. Then the second one is business. The third one is the local community or the local government, the public institutions. That's the real name. And I will just give you the sneak peek of what is actually happening and what is the situation of Serbia. But please expect these reports to be out very soon from official Circular Economy Beacon site, and follow us to see the developments in Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, and most probably Croatia as well. The first very interesting fact is that the majority of city municipal decision makers did not hear about, but are not aware of the details from the action plan for circular economy of European Union, 73.7%. That brings us really about the information importance and speed of information kind of a diffusion. What kind of benefits could you see from the circular economy? Majority of them say that it is basically the reduction of negative influence of pollutants, and then this one is very interesting, creating an eco-sustainable market, and then the third one is more efficient use of the resources on a municipal level, and that's really encouraging because that's coming from the municipal side, and that means that they see that there is a market to be created from this. And our education from this year was actually delivering the ways on how city can create an innovative environment for the citizens and businesses to foster circular economy. So not Apple ways, but how to enable actors within the system to earn money and stay in the city with circular economy. In regards to company, you see a big mishmash. So that's how not polarized, but how differentiated the problems are. But the main thing here is basically how to reduce and manage with waste from the company side of view, and also how to improve the production processes inside the company itself. And one more thing about the companies is that how do they see what is the biggest benefit? What is the biggest challenge from the circular economy perspective? And what the companies usually see is how to establish, how to communicate, how to create new opportunities with circular economy, new business opportunities with circular economy. And the second one that they are tackling most with is the policy and regulation, and that's something that we've dedicated a lot of time in this webinar. And then the last slide about the companies, what will be the use from the company, from the transition to circular economy? The number one is actually here, you cannot see it, sorry for that, but it is reduction of costs in regards to circular economy. And if you would, there was one more question that was referring to how do you see transition to circular economy? Is it going to be more costly? Is it going to be more cost efficient? Or is it going to produce you more money or increase the profits? And the answers were pretty much 30% for each of these three main categories. So it's not considered, if it's tackled from the right direction, it's not considered as a primarily the increase of cost of transition. And there are a number of reasons because for this, and we invite you for the discussions in the next year that we will definitely expound these topics, why and how to commit to circular transition. About circular economy beacons. So what we've done in 2021, we've built action plans, so we built actually the roadmaps, and this is wrong wording. So systemic roadmaps for companies with blended approach using circular economy beacons implementation framework. That means that we've created the implementation framework that should work in the Balkan context. In collaboration with companies, we see that there is a different way to approach circular transition than a humongous transformation that everyone is afraid of. And the implementation framework is currently in use by our actors or by our members, but hopefully we'll soon be able to publish it also and teach others how to use it. We had open calls for companies to find new circular economy opportunities. Definitely, we're working in Bulgaria and Bosnia and Romania and Serbia. With 7 companies currently, but we are opening new call definitely in Serbia now, and in Romania it has been opened already for new companies to join this initiative and join this circular economy transition. What it brings is the first of all, it brings the very much discounted price of these services, but what it gives is the overview possibilities where the company needs to go in order to become truly circular. So we're trying to avoid the greenwashing completely, and if the company wants to become truly circular and be on that market, we're providing the process for this. What we did is we finalized we've improved the implementation framework to volume 2.0, and we intend to continue working on this constantly because circular economy is growing and developing constantly. We don't intend to just create some kind of framework, leave it there and use it for the remaining of the time, but we constantly want to work on it and improve it. What we did in regards to the cities, we educated more than 20 municipalities and 8 national bodies within our countries. So Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, Serbia, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. We've educated more than 20 municipalities about this new innovative approach to circular economy and 8 national bodies in this. And based on this knowledge, we are creating also a circular economy hotspot framework. That means that we intend to go in cities, work with them, and define what are the most interesting areas and most needed areas for them to work on in order to become kind of circular urban hubs. Well, urban hubs, yeah. In regards to this, we will organize one more joint policy workshop where we will connect all the cities from all countries involved and all the national bodies in order to exchange experience and actually start the regional dialogue between how to develop or how to co-develop circular economy between municipalities and start this process of sharing experience, knowledge, etc. We realize in our workshops that this sharing of experiences is the most valuable thing. It's good to not have the knowledge, but sharing experiences of the municipality that had already gone through some processes is invaluable for the development of others, especially in the new areas such as circular economy. I've said all of these conclusions. Basically, collaboration is important. Green public procurement is something that green and circular public procurement is something that we need to step in even with more speed. And at the end, as a main conclusion of our workshops was that waste and wastewater is a consequence of a wasteful economy, not something that needs to be treated, but something that needs to be avoided at the beginning. And with this slide, we are actually building these two services, one of which is education, the other one is this hotspot framework. For us, I think it's important to see what happens next year and how can you be involved. We want to focus on action-driven collaboration, and I've already mentioned the multifaceted stakeholder collaboration between industry, between private sector, between innovation, institutions, public bodies, information, and citizens themselves. So we need this kind of collaboration. We want to focus more on finance. That's what we see. It's very important as a next step. And we want to see the innovation exploration for all the countries and basically involve the innovation dimension in the Circular Economy Balkan Beacons. 2023 will give us 3 different ecosystems that at the end, maybe in 24, 25, we want to blend into one ecosystem that will be called Circular Economy Ecosystem. But in 23, we see that we need to merge these actors. We need to create at least 3 different or 3 very connected actually ecosystem, which is business, innovation, and experts ecosystem, or actually knowledge-driven ecosystem. How can you be involved in 2022? And we will open calls for companies to join the circular transition. And each of the countries will have their own capacities how to tackle new companies that are in this program. We will be organizing workshops and also the trainings for capacity buildings, both for companies and local governments. So please follow us if you would like to know more about this. And we are going to have a couple of urban circular planning initiatives from within this cluster of cities that have gone or they have passed our education or step one, right? Education about circular economy. So we will be planning these hotspots for the cities to see how the cities can transfer to circular economy. The last two things are involving innovators to circular innovation pathways. With this, we really want to merge the current business system and the potentially new business system. We want to build innovative entrepreneurship from the innovators and from the ground up, and in that way help maybe even the bigger companies to resolve their problems they're facing in regards to circular economy. And the last one, so if you are an innovator, let's be in touch, because we will be working on the innovation platform in 2022. And then what we want also to see is what is the systemic potential of circular strategies in Balkan countries. So what of the countries will be better in maybe remanufacturing, recycling, or refurbishing, or repairing, etc., etc. So that's one of the researches that we are going to commit in 2022. With this, I would like to close my talk and maybe have a minute or two for questions, but okay, Anna had managed to share all the links. That's good. Thank you very much. And if there are no questions, being that it's 12:10 and we need to close slowly, thank you very much for following us. Please, like, share, subscribe, right? They say. And let's be in touch in 2022, because definitely we're going to open new programs and new ways of collaboration. Even if it's not formal open call, feel free to contact us via the site or via any of the partners organizations such as Ciricon or ourselves, Cleantech Bulgaria, Wuppertal Institute in Germany, Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Serbia, Chamber of Commerce of Timish, Research Center Athena, and RAIDS from Bosnia and Herzegovina. With this, thank you very much, and have a great Christmas and have a great New Year's holidays in front of you, and see you next year.